I'm Eric Bell, and I'm coordinating the To Infinity and Beyond event for the 2018 Science Olympiad. What I wanted to do, since we changed the plan, we had this unavoidable change in plan, and I'm really sorry for the lateness of that change of plan, but we're going to have an equivalent to the dome test, and we're going to be using Stellarium, which is this piece of software that I'm showing you now, which many of you have. And I wanted to give you some kind of idea of what it's going to look like. This will be projected onto a screen in one of the Pioneer high school classrooms. And we'll have it darked out, so it'll be pretty dark in the room, and I'll have the brightness turned up as high as possible, so I'm confident that we'll see the brighter stars. So right now I have Stellarium set up so that it has no horizon and there's actually no effect from the atmosphere. I think that'll make the projection as bright as possible. There's an option that you may wish to use for training, which is slightly different from this option, where you turn on the atmosphere, and that makes it a little harder to see the faint stars, but it may look more like it's going to when it's projected because there's less contrast, and so you can tend to see only the brighter stars with this, but still enough to see the constellations that we're looking for into infinity and beyond. So I'll be using a setup that makes the sky a little darker, but it'll look something like this to the participants. So we'll be the participants will be sitting on the floor quite close to the projection board, and generally I'll start when I'm trying to have them identify an object or a constellation zoomed pretty far out, and so this is looking at a good fraction of the sky, and so the participants will be asked to they may be asked to determine which direction we're facing in. So for example, I could say, which direction are we facing in based on the stars that we have on the sky now? And then I might ask them, okay, for number 2, what is this object and which constellation is it in? And I might, for example, zoom in a little bit so they can see a little closer. So it'd be this object here. What is this object here and the constellation it's in? Then I may zoom out so they have a wider view so we can see better what it is that they're looking at. So I'll be doing some zooming in and out, and I'll make mistakes. I'll zoom out when I'm supposed to zoom in, and but we'll get there in the end. It's just kind of Stellarium, and I'm still learning to use it. So for example, this object in this constellation that we're looking in might be something that one could ask about. We'll be changing direction sometimes, and so we may change direction and say, look over in this direction and ask, which direction are we looking in? That's question number 6, for example. And then question number 7 might be, okay, what is this object and which constellation is it in? And so we could zoom in, and look at that object, see the constellation that it's near, and then I can zoom back out a little so they can see more of the global context. And so we'll be doing that for, of order, a dozen different sets of objects and constellations. And we'll be looking in different directions in the sky. So we can change direction. I'll kind of pan around like this so that we can see roughly to which direction we're pointing in. This is yet another direction that we could point in, and this constellation could be interesting, or this object here could be interesting. There's some constellations that are quite high in the sky that might be a little bit harder to build some context in. So generally what I'll do is I'll go to a place where there's some landmarks that the children kind of recognize better. So for the ones that are pretty high in the sky that would be straight up and pretty easy to do in the dome, they're harder to do in Stellarium. So I might say, okay, we're facing this direction here. I'm going to move up. So we're looking high in the sky. We're going to change direction a little bit. And then I'm going to ask about this object here, for example. And then we can move around a little more. We can zoom out by accident and then zoom in to have a look at the constellation. The participants might recognize this constellation quite well. Then we'll zoom out a bit to give some context so they can see the other constellations around. So this is what the dome test is gonna look like. We'll have of order a dozen questions or so, and if participants need me to repeat a constellation or an object, then I will do so until we run out of time. Okay, thanks very much. Once again, I'm sorry for the change in plan, but we're going to make do, and I think we'll have a good time of it. Thank you.